Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Ullman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. The feature race at Keeneland is the Grade 2 Raven Run Stakes for 3-year-old fillies. Daily Racing Form handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will handicap that race, along with a couple of nice state-bred events. The Empire Classic Handicap at Belmont, the Maryland Million Classic at Laurel. Craig Milkowski's Time Form U.S. Spotlight, another state-bred race. That's the California Flag Handicap going down the hill at Santa Anita. JK's Play of the Day, the early Pick 5 at Belmont on Saturday. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on some interesting pedigree contenders for the upcoming Breeders' Cup, plus best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, Naira analyst, you found something at Belmont for the fans.
Yeah, Coolin' Rock is a 3-year-old gelding turf horse for Barclay Tag. He made his debut at a big price a couple of weeks ago. He was very green in that race, ran late though, to only be beaten a couple of lengths. They brought him back for his second start. This is his second start. We actually took some money in here. It looked like he was going to be tough. We'll start at the beginning here just because I'm not really sure what's going on here with Angel Arroyo's riding this horse in this spot. He just, for whatever reason, this horse broke fine. He wasn't going to be up on the pace, but they just, for whatever reason, Arroyo decides to drag him all the way back to last. You can see as they turn into the stretch where he is, he basically has no chance to win from here, but this horse will actually put in a really nice run through the lane here. He'll be making up ground with every stride at the end, and he'll just fall short of second at the end of this race. I thought he ran really well in this race, and I just feel like the trip and the ride probably did him in here. This horse looks like he's sitting on a win for Barclay Tag.
It gave too much ground at the start, and then certainly gave ground when being forced to swing very wide while way behind turning into the stretch. That was a nice performance. Now, Matt, your Horse Watch this week's got some stakes potential.
Yeah, this might be the quickest turnaround for a horse watch we've ever seen. This filly ran on Wednesday night. Her name is Grace and Dignity. She's a 2-year-old for Catherine Day Phillips. We're going to take a look. This was her first start against winners. She's already on the front. She broke a little bit slow, but the career debut, she won by 5.5. And here, basically, without ever being asked, she wins by 5.25. She's by Animal Kingdom, out of a Smart Strike mare. You look at everything about this filly, not only the way that she goes about it, she galloped out by 100. She's an Ontario bred. I would assume the connections are going to think that their long-term goal, I know it's a girl against the boys, but they're probably thinking Queen's Plate. At some point soon, I would hope, we're going to see if she can step on dirt.
Wasn't any issue for Holy Helena this year, winning the Queen's Plate, a filly against the boys. I'm going with a horse that had some hopes for the Kentucky Derby early this year. He won the Remsen in his final start as a 2-year-old, and his first few starts this year on dirt, no good. His trainer, Tony Dutrow, put him away, and he's gradually ramped up Motown. But this race, his turf debut, maybe Motown has finally found his niche. The old stalk and pounce move, and once he makes the front, he draws away from these optional claiming horses. I believe a non-winners of 2 other than, and he is just going to go on to win with a 100 Buyers speed figure. He's a son of the versatile and brilliant stallion Uncle Mo, and I think the Coolmore people and Tony Dutrow have a stakes horse on turf. Motown's good on dirt, but I think he's really found himself on the turf. That's Motown, late developing 3-year-old. Let's get to some handicapping. Graded stakes action at Keeneland on Saturday. It's the Raven Run. Let's take a look at the field for Keeneland's feature race on Saturday. It's the Grade 2 Raven Run Stakes for 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs. For expanded stakes previews of many of the major stakes races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. This is a really fun race. It's a full, deep, competitive field. Matt, you like a horse coming in from Southern California.
Yeah, Miss Sunset on the far outside for Jeff Bondi coming in, gets Julian Leperoux up. We're going to take a look at her most recent start. This was in the Surf Stakes down at Del Mar for Calbreds, but I just like the way that she's out there. And early on in the race, she sat a little bit. She had her head cocked, but in the past, she had been the kind of horse that absolutely needed to go. She sat comfortably enough off the pace a little bit. She took over rounding the far turn. You see her now. I know the distance of this race is at 6 furlongs. They're going to have to go 7/8 on Saturday. I don't see her slowing down. I think she's going to work at a beautiful trip from the outside, possibly pressing the pace, and I think she's got a big chance.
Now, that outside post really should help her because of her good early and tactical speed. She should be able to break out there, maybe sit in second in the early part of that race and be ready to gear up on the turn. Mike, your filly's going to have no problems with 7 furlongs. It doesn't matter whether it's 2 turns or 1. It's Teculita. Does she get enough pace to run at?
Yeah, I think she's going to get a nice trip in this race. I don't think she really needs, she doesn't need a huge pace to run. I think she can get the right kind of tactical typical stalking trip in this race. That seems to be the way that they run her. Most of the times when they go the one-turn race that she really likes. I think that's what she really needs. Now, she did win her last race. We're going to look at her last win right now at Charlestown. This is a two-turn 7 furlongs, but she got a good trip in this race too. Kept the pace and range, came forward off the turn, took it right over, out-finishes a couple of horses who she's going to meet up with again in this spot. And this is Tecolita, guys. She just stays on. She doesn't put fields away at the end, but she stays on to the finish. They're never catching her at the end. 7 furlongs is her game. I think she's the best of the East Coast-based fillies, and I think maybe she'll be able to handle the West Coast fillies as well.
Our friends at Timeform US with their pace projector believes that the number 8 Chalone will be able to get to the front, and that's my selection in the Raven Run. 2 weeks ago, she ran against older horses in the Thoroughbred Club of America, and she faced one of the better filly and mare sprinters in the whole country, Finley's Lucky Charm. We'll turn into the stretch of that race, and she's down on the inside, and as usual, she was contesting the pace, but she was out-sprinted a bit early by True Romance, who's outside of her right now. She is no match for Finley's Lucky Charm, who's just simply the best horse in the race. But I like the way that she's going to come back and grab second from a tiring True Romance. She showed that she handles the Keeneland surface. 7 furlongs might be a bit dicey for Chalone, but Peter Miller has decent numbers coming back on 2 weeks rest, and this filly could be in front when the field swings into the stretch. That's Chalone, my top selection in the Raven Run. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment this week focuses on some interesting Breeders' Cup contenders. Let's go to her segment right now.
Hi everybody, Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky for Out of the Gate. The Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, of course, just over 2 weeks away, and we're obviously covering all the lead up on DRF. You can check out division by division coverage at drf.com/BC. 2 races that are obviously interesting from a pedigree standpoint are the Juvenile Turf and Juvenile Fillies Turf. We'll discuss some contenders for those here this week. Make a note in your handicapping. Let's start with a filly who might contend for favoritism in the Juvenile Fillies Turf off her impressive win in the Jessamine at Keeneland, Rushing Fall. Yet another good turf filly for Chad Brown. Look at her just surge past and win going away here. Rushing Fall is by More Than Ready, who really ticks all the boxes for this division. A good turf sire, a good juvenile sire, and a good filly sire. Rushing Fall out of a mare by Forestry, an emerging broodmare sire. She's a half-sister to stakes winner and grade 3 placed sprinter Milam. Definitely injects some more speed into the family. Her third dam is In My Cap, who won the Wonder Wear in Canada and several other stakes. Obviously, a lot of nice turf horses coming out of that family. It's also the family of grade 1 winning handicap horse Albert the Great. The globe-trotting Capla Temptress is an intriguing candidate for the Juvenile Fillies Turf. She won her first 2 starts and was Group 3 placed in England before coming over to Woodbine for the Natalma. She was bumped at the start and found room late for a gritty win and was flattered when third-place finisher Wonder Godot came back to win the Mazarin. At that one headed to the Juvenile Fillies on dirt. Strong international pedigree here. The filly is by French Derby winner Lope de Vega. The son of Chamardal has already sired some good juveniles, including Dewhurst winner Bellardo. Capla Temptress out of a Dan Silly mare who won at a mile. Some bottom to her in that female family. Now let's take a quick look at a couple of the boys. The Juvenile Turf is expected to include a couple of sons of the late Scat Daddy, another sire who ticks all the boxes for this division as an outstanding turf sire, outstanding juvenile sire. Flame Away, who Dan Ullman and I discussed on this week's DRF breeding report, will come into the Juvenile Turf having never run on turf. He's won a couple of off-the-turf stakes on a sloppy track, and we've both taken the position that he'll certainly handle the surface thanks to Scat Daddy's influence. Scat Daddy's turf-leaning abilities also very apparent in this horse, Pilgrim Stakes winner Shoke, overcoming maybe a more dirt-leaning immediate female family. Shoke's got some European class further back. His dam, though, is a Curlin mare who is a half-sister to Preakness and Belmont winner of Fleet Alex. Definitely a more dirt-leaning family, but also some stamina to back up Scat Daddy's turf influence. Well, Before we get to the Breeders' Cup, this weekend's stakes action includes the Empire Classic and the rest of a New York bred showcase at Belmont, plus the Maryland Million card. Our team will be back with more on those stakes on Out of the Gate after these messages.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the feature race on New York Showcase Saturday at Belmont Park. It's the $300,000 Empire Classic Handicap. For expanded stakes previews for many of the major stakes races all weekend long, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, the number 3 Twisted Tom, 2-1 morning line favorite for Chad Brown, Javier Castellano, facing older horses for the first time. This horse, though, he really has a lot of stamina.
Yeah, I was going to say, distance is not going to be the issue here. Mile and an eighth, this is probably going to be a little bit short for him. We've seen in the past that he's well-rounded as far as distance is concerned. He wants to go as long as possible. We're going to take a look at his most recent start. This is up at Saratoga. And look, he's a nice horse. Again, this is against New York breds, against 3-year-olds. He goes out and he gets the job done. I guess the concern here, the knock anyway, is he's not overly fast right now. And in a race like this, do you want him at a short number?
And he's facing some salty older horses again for the first time. I believe he's won 5 out of his last 6 starts. They only lost when he had some trouble in the Belmont Stakes. He's been dominating 3-year-old New York bred competition. And again, Mike, distance is friend.
Yeah, he really wants to go even probably further than a mile and an eighth. But he's, if you're going to like him in a race like this, and I do think he has to improve to beat this field, at least you're getting a 3-year-old who's run the 2 fastest races of his life in his last 2 starts, and that's a good thing.
Mike, you want a horse that ran in the Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old last year. That's Governor Malibu for Christophe Clement.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want him, but I took him. We'll see what kind of price Governor Malibu goes up. They made him a generous price on the morning line anyway. We'll just see if he can salvage something of this 4-year-old campaign, where so far he's 0 for 4 this year. We have a replay of his race in this race, the Empire Classic last year, where he's trying to come from last over a sloppy track. I thought he ran fine to be second in this race, guys. This came on the heels, of course, of a couple of wins during the year, a couple of grade 2 placings during the year. A horse who was a pretty good 3-year-old, all things considered. He just hasn't come back and done all that much this year. And again, they'll try and salvage something in the Empire Classic this year. To me, it's just a race where he's supposed to run well and probably supposed to win.
Matt, you want a horse that's going to be close to the pace right now. Rudy Rodriguez, I believe, has a third of the field. Control Group's going to be right in the thick of things when they swing into the lane.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing for me. I looked at this race, and I don't think there's a ton of early pace signed on. And Control Group has at least shown the ability to be forward. I have to be honest, this is a major, major class test. There's no question about it. You look and see 2 starts back, he was in non-winners of 3 lifetime. Now, last time out was in a New York bred race where everything's conditioned. He has a little bit of tactical speed. That, to me, goes a long way. He's another 3-year-old taking on elders, but there's a part of me that thinks, we talk about pace making the race. He's going to be forwardly placed. That can't be used as the excuse. It's a matter of, is he good enough or not?
I am more bullish on Governor Malibu than Mike Beer. I agree with Mike in that he's my top selection in this field. I think he's finally getting a little bit of class relief that he needs. Last time out, he was chasing Diversify, and Diversify, who knew how good he was? Well, Matt knew. We made him a horse watch based on that victory in the Evan Shipman, and all Diversify did next time out was win the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup en route perhaps to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Governor Malibu was in chase mode. He's nowhere in Diversify's league right now, but he was easily second best. The time before that, they tried a mile and a half in the Grade 2 Brooklyn. I just think this is the spot where you have a good 3-year-old, but a 3-year-old in Twisted Tom that figures to get bet, and as Matt mentioned, not overly fast and might not have much of an edge on this field where he deserves to be favored over a horse like Governor Malibu. I'll take Governor Malibu to get back to his winning ways in the Empire Classic. Let's move down to Laurel. State bred action all across the country on Saturday. The Maryland Million Classic is next. Let's take a look at the field for the feature race at Laurel on Saturday. It's the Maryland Million Classic, just a stakes-laden card at Laurel on Saturday afternoon. It's carded as race number 10. You've got a big full field. For expanded stakes previews of many of the major stakes races all across the country, please visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, the number 1 Admiral's War Chest, has won this race the last 2 years, but he's only had 1 start going into the Maryland Million Classic. Is it enough?
Boy, I don't know. We'll find out. I think the big thing is, though, if you like this horse, there's not a ton of speed, and you know he has one way to go. All of his lifetime victories have come in gate-to-wire fashion. You're down on the inside. You have one job. Send him to the front and hope that you can last. The problem is, if you are a little bit short, you've got a quality horse like John Jones who's going to be breathing right down your neck.
Matt, let's talk about John Jones. John Jones was monstrous last year after being claimed for $25,000 by Lacey Gaudette, winner of the Jennings 2 starts back. But like Admiral's War Cry, only 1 race this year as a prep, but it was a good one on turf at Belmont.
Yeah, the question comes down to fitness. Is he ready to go for a race like this at a distance like this? From a talent standpoint, there is no question. If he's at his best, he lays over this field. The question is, again, how short a price do you want to take on a horse that may or may not be fit enough?
Mike, John Jones perhaps getting back to his best surface, and turf to dirt's been a strong angle for him in the past.
It has. He's won his last 2 starts switching from turf to dirt, so I guess it could be a good thing that that's the move they're making here. I agree with Matt. I think you'd want to be a little concerned. He's going to go 6 to 9 furlongs here. It's a pretty big stretch out for horses who's only had 1 start so far this year.
You guys want a price in this race, and we talked about what a great claim John Jones was. What about Clubman? A claim and has been unstoppable on dirt recently.
Yeah, Clubman's really an interesting runner in this spot, simply because you look at his last 6 starts, 2 of them were on turf. Draw lines through those, you're left with 4 dirt routes. They're all wins. I still think he's developing and he needs to take a step forward, but if he does, he has a giant chance in here.
Matt, you like Clubman on top. He's going to be a price. Mike, you like Clubman on top as well. Let's go back to his race 2 starts back. Take us through it, Mike.
Yeah, I thought this horse ran really well in this race. He's coming down the outside here. This has sort of been his running style. He'll come from off the pace. That could be a good thing in this field, especially if you feel like the 2 horses drawn down towards the inside are going to be a little short here. I think that's what you have to hope for. This horse will come running at the end. I'm a little concerned about the 9 furlongs for him. I'm not sure that he really wants to go that far, but he just might be catching maybe the 2 best horses at the right time here.
That's Clubman looking to get a little bit of pace. Matt's top selection in the race, Mike's top selection in the race. He's going to be coming from off the pace, as well as my top selection. Todd Pletcher has 2 in here. I'm going to go with Bonus Points, the number 5. This is a horse Todd put blinkers on 2 starts back. He's run some faster races with the blinkers. His most recent start was against Pavel. He just simply had no chance in the Smarty Jones, the local prep for the Pennsylvania Derby, but he earned a big figure. He tried hard in the lane. Pavel really flattered that performance by coming back with a big triple-digit buyer effort in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Let's go back 3 starts for Bonus Points run in the Caveat Stakes at Laurel on the turf. This was the race preceding blinkers, and I think he just lacks a little bit of focus. It looks like he's going to take this thing over on the far outside, and he's going to get outgamed a little bit while drifting out in the lane. He drops a head decision to Just Howard, who is a sharp 3-year-old on turf right now at Laurel. Again, since this race for Bonus Points, the blinkers came on. He was completely overmatched in the Hall of Fame against Bricks and Mortar at Saratoga, followed by that good effort against Pavel. I think the class relief is what he wants. He's going to get a pace setup, and at 1 1/8, I think that distance is well within his scope. He's my top pick in the Maryland Million Classic. JK is going to take a look at the early pick 5 at Belmont Park on New York Showcase Saturday. Craig Milkowski takes a peek at the California Flag Handicap going down the hill for his Timeform US Spotlight. Let's hit those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK Play of the Day. We're going to go out to Belmont Park, a bunch of New York bred stakes races. We're going to start with the early pick 5, not the late pick 5, but the early pick 5 that you can usually find out and that everyone's available to everyone out in NYRA. We're going to start with race 1. In the first leg, I'm going to use the 3, the 4, and the 7. The 3 Grand Velour for Linda Rice. Kind of stretching out from 7 furlongs to a mile, was closing into a slow pace, as you'll note on Timeform with the blue pace indicators there. Closing into a slow pace is something I love in turf races. Catch a Cab for Mark Cassie, who was kind of sitting, he was close enough in a slow pace race as well, but finished on well enough. Use that horse. And the 7, Appealing Briefs. Got a little bit of a setup according to time form with the red pace indicators early in the race, but on class alone, I think those 3 horses should be enough to get the job done. Make sure if it does come off the turf that you're paying attention to the MTO, the 1 horse Zonic. That horse could be tough if it comes off. In race 2, we're going to use the 3, the 4, and the 8. It's kind of a mission of mine to keep playing against Newport Breeze off of the trip from Saratoga. I think a lot of people are going to continue to bet that horse back, and I'm going to keep trying to beat that filly. The 3, I Still Miss You off of back numbers for Jeremiah Englehart. Sometimes you just get kind of a clunker thrown in there. It's what happened last time. Pure Silver, because I have a hard time leaving Todd off of pick 5 tickets. Not a strong opinion on that horse, but I'm going to use the horse that I would single if I was being aggressive in this spot would be Burning Rose. I think Burning Rose is sitting on a big race, ran a big time form figure first out up at Saratoga, came back and was beat by Held Accountable, who's in this race, the 6 horse. But I think that Burning Rose could turn the tables in this spot. 3, 4, 8 in the second leg. I'm going to use the 1 and the 3. I wanted to single Kazan coming out of that race with Karina Mia and Highway Star down on the inside. Wasn't an ideal place to be that day. And Pico Uno, who beat Kazan and Kazan's 2 races back, Pico Uno's last race. So I tossed her in as well. If you were feeling a little bit more daring, you could single the 3, but I think you're covering the race using the 1 and the 3. I'm going to single the 5, 55. If you just look through her class lines, we talk about key races, you see names like Uni, La Coronel, Proctor's Ledge, Party Boat, New Money Honey. This is a little bit of a class drop for that one. Chad knows how to get him ready to win up at Belmont on the turf. And then I'm going to use the 3 and the 8, Twisted Tom and Governor Malibu. Class edges have faced open company in the past. They show up here in this race in a $300,000 stake for New York breds. I think those 2 should be enough to get it done here. Good luck. Hope you hit the pick 5. We'll see you next week gearing up for Breeders' Cup.
Hi, this is Craig Milkowski, Chief Speed Figure Maker for Timeform US. Here to talk about our race of the week this week, which is a California Flag Handicap. It's named after a horse who was one of the first winners, if not the first, I don't remember, of the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And that's what we're going to talk about today, a race going down the hill at Santa Anita. It's 6.5 furlongs, as they all are, about 6.5, and they go down that hill. And we're going to look at the preview page first. Pointed out a few things here. The race rating of 117 kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to take to win this race. You can see the pace projector in the right-hand corner. And something to note, which is a bit of an anomaly here, it shows Tribalist is also entered to run in another race. And this is something we do if a horse is entered on a different day. Usually it's the next day or was the day before. But here it's actually in our Breeders' Cup, our early Breeders' Cup files, which there are no entries yet, but he's one of the horses that are included, so it shows up. Let's take a closer look at that Timeform US pace projector. And what we see here is we're predicting it's going to favor horses that are on or near the early lead. You see the 5 and the 7 horse are both shown right up there. Not much else. You notice and note that the blinkers are coming off the 6, so he actually gets penalized a little bit in the pace projector, shown a little bit farther behind than he would be if he kept blinkers on. The first horse I want to look at is Tribalist, and he's the horse I think is clearly the horse to beat. I would say that even if it wasn't showing the pace projector, favored horses on or near the early lead because he just looks like the strongest horse to me. What I find interesting with him is this is the first time in his brief career. You can see he's a 6-year-old gelding. And he's never put more than 2 starts together without having one of those red layoff lines, which in Timeform USPPs indicates a long layoff of usually 6 months or more. And so he's never been able to put 3 in a row together, but that's exactly what he'll do Saturday if he does make it into the gate. And he's been really impressive this year. His first time back at Del Mar going 5 furlongs on their turf course. He had just a nightmare trip. He had a bad break. He was steadied at the start. Blocked again a few times during the trip, and somehow he still got up to win. So even though he only ran a 107 speed figure, which looks a little light in here, it was a very impressive performance considering the journey that he had. The next time out in the Eddie D over this very same course, He drew an inside post, the 2 in a 10-horse field, and the inside is really not the place to be in these down-the-hill sprints. I've run some post position stats in the past, and the inside horses are definitely at a disadvantage. Despite that, he was able to chase a fast pace. You can see the fractions in red, the pace figures. And he ran what turned out to be his career best time form U.S. speed figure of 118, even though it was in defeat, losing by a neck to Mr. Rory, a horse who was cutting back in distance and kind of benefited from that hot pace. So he is definitely the one I like in here and think's going to win. You can see the chart as well shows that just more indication of what he was up against, where the top 5 finishers, all of them were much further back off the pace in both lengths and position. The top 5 finishers, he's the only one that was anywhere near the pace. Now I want to move on to Richard's Boy. He's a horse who's probably going to vie for favoritism with Tribalist or maybe be second choice in here. But he's a horse I'm definitely against. You can see his record. He's a horse that likes to win. He's won 9 out of 25 starts. He's really consistent. All his speed figures in between 111 and 119 his last 6 times. And if you actually click through on that career record, which I have underlined there, it brings up what he does in all kind of different circumstances. And you can see he's performed well down the hill. He's won 2 out of 8 with 4 seconds. So you may be wondering, well, why don't you like this horse? And the thing I saw when I scanned through is he actually won his very first 2 races at 6.5 furlongs when he was a young 3-year-old. And he hasn't been able to win since. And even though he's gotten 4 seconds on the course, a lot of them have been with favorable setups. You can see in his lifetime PPs, a lot of blue fractions where he was on the lead and had a clear lead turning for home and just hasn't been able to get the job done. So he's a horse I'm looking to play against in here. The final horse I want to talk about, and the horse that I think is going to be a price, and I'm going to use him with Tribalist and maybe bet him to win if I can get good odds on him in the 6 to 1 range or so, is B Squared. He's a 3-year-old, and he's been running on dirt a little bit, but he's had an interesting career. He started out, he was sprinting early, and he ran his best races, sprinting. He lost by a nose to Mr. Hanks. The turf, and once again, his was early in the 3-year-old career. He ran a nice 118, taking a stake at Golden Gate Fields, and then they stretched him out a little more back at Santa Anita to 1 1/8, and I think that's just too far for this horse. I don't think he wants any parts of that. He ran decent enough, but it, like I said, just too far. I don't know what happened after that. They decided he was a dirt horse again, and they started running him in routes, and he ran a really good second to Battle of Midway on this Santa Anita dirt, beating 4 lengths, running second. But then again, the last 3 times he jumped right back up to 1 1/8. It's races that are just too long. He hasn't run bad. He's run okay, decently, but I think this 6.5 furlongs down the hill is going to hit him right between the eyes. I think he's a horse that's going to love it. He's already shown he can run on the turf, and the distance should be better. And the reason I think we'll get a price is that last race looks a lot worse than it was. He was beaten 8th. He was 8th, beaten by 20 lengths. But I think he ran much better than that. He had a tough start in the race. The track was favoring horses coming from off the pace. He dueled up front. And when he packed it in, what difference does it make if you lose by 10 or lose by 20? They kind of wrapped up on him. So the speed figure doesn't really mean a whole lot. And he still managed to run a 108. So that's about it for the California flag. I think Tribalist is the most likely winner. I think B Squared is a horse that's going to provide some value. So I'll be boxing those 2 in Exacta and maybe B Squared to win if I get a decent price. That's it for Timeform US. Now let's head back to Dan in the studio.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Time for our best bet segment. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst, you have something on New York Showcase Saturday.
Yeah, race 8 is the Hudson handicap for the sprinter, the New York bred sprinters. It's a wide open race. I think a lot of different horses can win. I want to try Gold for the King in this race. He's a 3-year-old. He hasn't had much of a campaign this year so far. But I feel like there's a way to look at him and just think if he takes even a small step forward, he can compete with these horses. He ran a 92 buyer in his final start as a 2-year-old. He came back for his 3-year-old debut, a video we're going to show you right now, and he runs another 92. He's going to come from way off the pace here and just close down the outside right by this field. This was a really nice effort for his 3-year-old debut. After this race, they sort of got a little ambitious with this horse. They gave him some time off, and they came back. His next start was in the Woody Stevens, the Grade 2 Woody Stevens, and he actually ran deceptively well to be 6th in that race. He did not run poorly. They tried to stretch him out last time. He does not want to go far. He is turning back in this race. This is what he wants to do. He's 12-1 on the morning line. And I think if he runs his best race, he could pull off an upset in this race.
Matt, like Mike, you're going to be at Belmont Park on Saturday with your best bet.
Race 4 is the Ticonderoga, mile and 16th on the inner turf course. I like Barrel of Dreams. There's not a lot of speed signed on, first and foremost. But then when you go back and you look at the most recent start from Barrel of Dreams, she ran in the Hettinger, and right now we got a problem because we're 4 clear of second, and then we're 5 clear of third, and then we're 15 clear of the rest of the field. She went 46 of the half mile with Rosario up 3/4 and 9 flat. I'm not sure why we needed to go that fast because you see right now she's going to get tired, and it also doesn't hurt that the horse like 4-Star Crook, who came back to run third in a graded stakes up at Woodbine most recently, came over the top. There's a part of me that thinks you get John Velasquez back. Johnny V has ridden her the most over the past year and a half or 2 years. If you go a little bit slower, I'm not even saying like seconds, a little slower, I think she's close at the end. I think she has a big chance here in this race on Saturday afternoon. We'll go Barrel Dreams.
I'm going to head down to Delaware Park for my best bet. Race number 8, the number 4, Philip Cohen's A Piker. I made this filly my best bet 3 weeks ago, and we're going to take a look at that race right now, where she was taking on the odds-on winner, Haley's Flip. She ran well. She runs well just about each and every time. 9 starts, 4 wins, 4 seconds. Just no match for this favorite, who's in career form right now for trainer Michael Trombetta. Philip Cohen's A Piker, 2 starts back, ran second to Angel at War, who's the 8-5 favorite at Delaware on Saturday. But if you go back in Formulator and watch that race, Angel at War just had the candiest trip, getting to an easy lead, and Philip Cohen's A Piker had no chance without much pace. On Saturday, Angel at War is going to have some more company up front. It's going to help out the 4, Philip Cohen's A Piker, 5-2 on the morning line. The expected second choice at post time behind the 6, Angel at War. I think she's going to turn the tables on that one. Delaware race number 8, the 4, Philip Cohen's A Piker. You can follow us on social media, all of the latest DRF video offerings on demand on Twitter at DRF Video, and all the latest news and notes on Twitter. You can follow the Daily Racing Form handle at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.